You're listening to the Rip Jersey Podcast with James D. Jackson.
Minnesota makes a crazy comeback. The Buffalo Bills win on a last-second field goal, and Brock Purdy is officially that man. We got a lot to talk about here on the Rip Jersey Podcast. These are the hot stories of the day. Let's get right into it.
Here we go.
All right, let's go.
So, here we go.
Hotter than a hot dog stand in July.
Here's the first story of the day.
So I hope you didn't leave the stadium early or turn the channel off too quick in the first game on Saturday between the Minnesota Vikings and the Indianapolis Colts. This game is one of the craziest I think we've seen this year. And it started with a 33-point first half rally for the Indianapolis Colts over the Minnesota Vikings, who are playoff hopefuls, division leaders, and against the Indianapolis Colts, who really don't have their head coach because Jeff Saturday's filling in for whoever the next guy is. And they're just downtrodden, man. They're not very good. And so this was a very shocking deal. And after that first half, the Minnesota Vikings do what they do best. And as I've labeled them many times on this podcast, they are the comeback kings, and they did it again. This time in dramatic fashion, all going into overtime in this one. The Indianapolis Colts had 17 points in that first quarter, then 16 in that second, all while Minnesota Vikings just weren't scoring. But this comeback is now the largest in NFL history. I mean, you talk about a great game. 33-point deficit coming back, and the Minnesota Vikings are now the owners of the largest comeback in NFL history. Let's hear Kirk Cousins and what the guys thought going into that halftime.
You know, Patrick Peterson made the comment, we only need 5 touchdowns. And I didn't know if he was being sarcastic or what. When I looked at him, he was serious. I think his point was, we're not going to let them score anymore. So if you can get 5 touchdowns, that will be good enough.
And the Minnesota Vikings passed the Buffalo Bills, who previously held the record, which came back from a 32-point deficit over the Houston Oilers at the time, 1992-1993, that season, in a wild card game in that one. Kirk Cousins now he has 7 fourth-quarter comebacks this season, man. The comeback kings, man. It has a lot to do with Kirk Cousins. When you look at his stats in this game, 34 of 54 for 460 yards and 4 touchdowns. He also had 2 interceptions, which kind of hurt them in that first half, which is a big reason why they were struggling. But he got himself together, and Dalvin Cook, I mean, if you saw that play where he kind of sealed the sending the guys into overtime, that screen pass he took 64 yards to the end zone, man, that was an amazing play. It was just a regular screen pass, and he just kept on churning, man. Justin Jefferson also had a great game in this one, 12 catches for 123 yards and 1 touchdown to go along with KJ Osborne, 10 receptions, 157 yards and 1 touchdown. And man, Matt Ryan, you got to think about it. Matt Ryan he's now on the other end of 2 of the greatest comebacks in NFL history. The other one happened with Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. I mean, that's bad luck for that guy. Bad luck for him and Indianapolis, who just having bad second halves throughout this, the last couple of games, just having bad second halves. And it almost didn't come down to like this overtime win because Sullivan on the defensive side for the Vikings, he had 2 fumble recoveries that should have been like touchdowns for him, but they were blown dead too early. I don't know why the refs don't just let the plays go on and then call it dead, because they obviously weren't sure on the play. I don't know why they were blowing it dead for him. That was very frustrating to watch. But the Minnesota Vikings get the win in dramatic fashion. What a fun one to get into. Let's get into the next one.
Number 2.
All right, so the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins squared off. This is a very big game in terms of the AFC East standings and who's going to be where. Buffalo Bills pulled this off in the final seconds. It came down to a last-second field goal, which Tyler Bass hit in the last second, and another amazing, fun game. You talk about 2 fun games on Saturdays. Typically we don't get NFL football on Saturday, but college football's in there between the championships and the bowl games. So NFL stepped in to get into this primetime slot, and that was great games. Great games between these 2 teams. And the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen, 24 of 40 for 304 yards and 4 touchdowns in the game that became almost a snowball. A lot of snow out there, and you could tell this was going to affect these two teams because these two teams are very pass-heavy teams, especially the Miami Dolphins with all the speed that they have with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Those two guys have always dominated the league, and they are on the same team now. And you would expect them to have a very good game. There was a lot of Tua slander over the past 2 weeks after he's dropped these two games with bad performances. And I think he did a pretty good job of redeeming himself in terms of an individual performance in this game. 17 of 30 for 234 yards and 2 touchdowns in this game. And it happened to Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, 2 long touchdowns, which you don't expect in the snow in this situation. I mean, the snow was so bad that the fans actually were throwing snowballs in that first half at the players and at the staff. And the referees had to go on there and say, hey, if you keep doing this, we're going to penalize the Buffalo Bills to quit, that's crazy when you think about, you never really think about the things that can affect the game, how the fans really could be in that moment. And the way they can affect the game by throwing snowballs, it's not something that I don't think you really prepare for. I'm not sure if that's in the rule book or not or what's going on with that, but that was pretty funny to see. So now the Bills are in the playoffs now with this fourth quarter comeback, and they are, this is 4 straight years for the Buffalo Bills. This is 4 straight years. Let's listen to Josh Allen and see what he thought on this game.
Guys made plays, stepped up, found a way to win. I thought our defense played a heck of a game in that second half, especially. And then there, T-Bass at the end, he's nails.
Yeah, Tyler Bass win it. It was a very weird play to set up that field goal because Devin Singletary seemed to not get in the end zone. I'm not sure. He just went down on purpose, seemed like, and he also didn't get the first down. So it was a very bad situation for the Bills at the time because he could have just walked into the end zone, or he would have taken a hit, but he could have got into the end zone with one move. It's kind of weird trying to, the Buffalo Bills coming down to the final second field goal in the postseason. That's always worrisome. That's always worrisome, especially for a guy that's watched this team kind of blow those field goals in the Super Bowls and things like that. I don't know. You don't want to leave it up to the field goal unit in that situation. Devin Singletary should have just ran into the end zone. That was very weird. Josh Allen had one of those crazy leap over the line of scrimmage and reaching to the goal line for a touchdown. That was pretty cool to see. It also, at the time, it looked like he didn't get in, but when you look at the replay, it's just the very tip of the ball that got over. And this is a game of inches, man. This is a game of inches. That's what happens in this type of situation in these games in football. So that was crazy to see. For the Bills, Dawson Knox, again, leading the Buffalo Bills receiver units. He just did it last game. Now he does it again. 6 catches for 98 yards and 1 touchdown. Stephon Diggs, 5 catches, 60 yards for him as well. A lot of great plays from Stephon Diggs. That's, people scheme against Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. That's who you have to stop if you want to beat the Buffalo Bills. And teams have had hard times doing it, man. Those two guys are just that great. They've had hard times doing it. But with the Buffalo Bills getting this 32-29 win over the Miami Dolphins, they are now the AFC division champs. They are now in the playoffs. Everything's going right for them at this point, besides Von Miller getting hurt 2 weeks ago. But they look to be on the upside. They're winning close games, which they had struggled to do throughout these last couple of seasons. They're winning close games, and they're consistently doing it now. And so that should bode well for them in the playoffs. That should bode well. Let's get into the third game.
Number 3.
All right, so I had an instant reaction about this on the podcast and on the YouTube app. I want to get a little deeper into it. Brock Purdy, man. Brock Purdy is having one of those crazy stories. Mr. Irrelevant is what he was called because he was the last pick in the NFL draft. That's what they call the last pick. And as of right now, I believe he's the greatest Mr. Irrelevant pick that we've ever seen. When you go back and look at the history of who was picked last and what they've done with their career, Brock Purdy seems to have made the biggest impact. Now, they've had a kicker that had he's had a lot of good seasons for his team as well. But Brock Purdy is playing the quarterback position, which is a very difficult position, a very important position, is doing very well for the 49ers because he's got him into he's going to have him into the playoffs, man. They've won the division. They're at the top, and he just keeps this rolling because he's a third string quarterback, man. He's a third string quarterback. Typically, that does not mean you're going to get very productive quarterback play from your third string guy. Typically, that's not what it means. I think when you look back at the history of it, 99% of the time, that's what that means. But this Kyle Shanahan, formation or whatever you want to call it, this way he runs this offense, these guys are not missing a beat. And Brock Purdy has stepped in and just been incredible for these guys. Let's listen to what he said after the game, especially coming in after these two great quarterbacks that they've had this season.
I don't think, Jimmy and Trey get enough credit for what they've done. I'm just now coming on the scene where these guys have been here, throughout the offseason for Trey, and then Jimmy coming in and leading these guys and winning, And so for me to come in, and I just want to continue what they got rolling.
So in the 21-13 win over the Seattle Seahawks, Brock Purdy was 11 for 11 to start that game, which ended in a touchdown. And that's the best start by a rookie we've seen this year. That's proven fact. That's factual. That's what the stats say. That's the best start we've seen by a rookie. And he just doesn't look like a guy that's uncomfortable out there. He seems so poised and very well kept of himself that he's leading guys in the huddle. I heard he was cussing people out and, getting everybody in line. I heard, doing great. He's in the press conferences, handling it very well, not making any mistakes, not saying too much, too little, handling himself very composed and on the field, making the right plays, making the right decisions, not doing too much, throwing the ball where it seems to go. And that's all this team needs, especially with the defense that they have. That's all this team needs is somebody reliable that can not turn the ball over and make the right throws. That's worked wonders for the Philadelphia Eagles and Jalen Hurts and what they've done this year. It's kind of the same situation. The defense is so good. You just need somebody to not turn the ball over and play a great game of football, not make mistakes, and you can win these games, although the Eagles score a lot more points than the 49ers have been doing. It's just the kind of situation is very typical to what the Philadelphia Eagles are doing. Brock Purdy was 17-26 for 217 yards and 2 touchdowns in the win over the Seattle Seahawks. Christian McCaffrey, who played a very big role in this game, it's great to have him on the 49ers after Deebo Samuel went down. It's great to have both of them together, no doubt. They're a Super Bowl contending team with both of them together. But with Deebo out right now, Christian McCaffrey stepping up. 26 carries, 108 yards rushing for 1 touchdown. And he also had 6 catches, which, he's been known to be a very great receiving and running back. So very great stats from him. He did a very good job. That little first touchdown that Purdy had was like a fake to the right, fake to the left, then throw to George Kittle in the middle of the field. It goes into the scheme of what Kyle Shanahan has done. That is a impressive play. That's not something that a lot of guys are doing. So that's a very impressive win for the San Francisco 49ers. They are moving on. Geno Smith and the guys. Geno Smith was 31 for 44 in this one with 238 yards and 1 touchdown. He was an MVP candidate, favorite for a majority of the season. It doesn't look that way now. They're falling down the ladder. And that's just what happens, man. When you get this late into the season with so many guys are banged up, it's going to take more from certain guys to get this team to win. And they're just not making the little plays right now. They're just missing out on just a few plays here and there because they're not getting blown out by a lot of teams, which is good for the Seattle Seahawks in the long run. They're not getting blown out, but they're just not making those little plays in this game. And they're 0-5 after trailing in the first half. So that just shows you once they get behind, it's hard for them to come back from. And so that's one thing they need to fix. If not this season, next season, with Geno Smith leading the way for them. Mr. Irrelevant, though. Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy. He's proven he's Mr. Relevant. He's the guy going forward. And look for him to make a very big impact. Let's get into the next thing.
Number 4.
All right, number 4. So tomorrow or today, whenever you see this, when you see this, it should be Sunday. The Jets are taking on the Lions. Mike White took so many crazy hits against the Bills last week, and he was so injured they haven't cleared him to play. Zach Wilson will take over for him because he was moved into the second spot earlier this week. Earlier this week, he got moved to the second spot because we saw what Joe Flacco was doing against the Bills, and it doesn't look like he has it for them to win games. Especially, these are key games for them to win now because they're just so far. They're falling down the standings. They're last in the AFC East right now. They're last. They were second just a couple weeks ago. So they're sliding. They're sliding, and they need wins. Zach Wilson, he was taken out because he didn't look comfortable. He didn't look ready. He wasn't making the right throws, and it was Robert Saleh wanted him to have a reset, pretty much look at the game, watch the game, get comfortable with the game again. And it's only been 3 weeks. It's only been 3 weeks. I didn't want to see him back on the field this season yet because I think it's kind of setting him up for failure, because if he doesn't go out there and have a good game, it's just going to make his stock even worse. And he's going to feel more bad about himself. His confidence is going to go down. His stock's going to go down. Teams aren't going to want to trade for him. And it's a very slight margin of error for Zach Wilson in this game. Because what could he have learned in 3 weeks that would have made a very big difference to how he plays this game? It's not. I don't know if you have that yet. I'm waiting for that second year jump from him. Well, not second year. I'm waiting for that rebound jump from him, which would get him over next season, which is what I was thinking. But let's listen to Zach and what he says the 3 weeks has done for him and how he's prepared for this.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me mentally was, finding the fun in football. I love this game, and it definitely wasn't lost, but I think you guys felt the frustrations over some of those rough games. And so for me, it's, I love this game. I'd play this game for free. And so, it's going out there and just enjoying it with the guys, and every single play, just enjoying being out there and being grateful to be here and to be able to play football for a living. It's truly an amazing job.
And so now he has to come back against a Detroit Lions team that is not a bad football team. This team is surging. They're 5-1 in their last 6 games. I mean, you talk about one of the hottest teams in the NFL. And so Zach Wilson has to come back and try to win against this team. And I just think, man, that's just a tough situation to come back into. There's no warm-up. There's nothing. He's played against this Jets defense in practice, but they've been banged up. Quentin Williams has been banged up. Their lead guy on the defensive line. They've had other issues on the defensive side that he's not really playing against what you would consider the top 5 defense in the NFL. And so coming back into this game, it's going to be a very rough game. That's what I'm predicting, a very rough game for Zach Wilson. And I'll say I don't know if it's necessarily so much his fault, because the situation he's being put in is a very difficult one to come into. And that's really what it comes down to. He's going to be compared a lot to what Jared Goff does. Jared Goff has been playing some of the best football of his entire career. Jared Goff has been playing some of the best football of his entire career. And that's, paid dividends for them, because they're just falling behind Dan Campbell's lead, the new coach for the Lions. They're falling behind them, and this is going to be a fun one, man. It's going to be a fun game, but I don't think the Jets can pull it off against this Lions team, which is playing some of the best football in the NFL right now. And that's no slight to the Jets. That's no slight, but just based on where we're at in the NFL season and trying to make a new quarterback, because he's technically new, coming back into this game, I don't know, but we'll see. Zach Wilson hasn't lost anybody but the Patriots, so that they do have that going for them. But I just feel like he's out of rhythm now. He's not. People are doubting him. He can. I think you can feel it as a quarterback on the field, because you can't make one bad throw or one bad decision that causes a turnover, and you're gonna lose everybody, because he's already trying to win the locker room back after what he said, which kind of got him benched in the first place. I don't know, man. It's going to be tough. We'll see what happens. But hey, that's all I have for you today. This has been the Rip Jersey Podcast. I'm James D. Jackson, and we appreciate you for sticking around with us. Thanks for watching this video. If you like that content, go check out some of the other videos on the webpage, on the YouTube app. There's a lot that's going on. Also, if you want to listen to us on the go, we're on any podcast app that you may have. Rip Jersey Podcast. Go check it out. Football, basketball, baseball. We talk about all those things.